muted. Still learning this. Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate everybody stopping by for the conversation today. Obviously, my guest today needs no introduction, but we will give him an introduction. The legendary Shane Gooner. Appreciate your time, like always, my guy. Always appreciate talking ball with you, and really interested for this one. These who you would pay to see 11s are getting more interesting as every episode goes by, and we've had some good teams. We've had some shout for some players, and man, appreciate your time as always, brother. How you doing today?
Yeah, all good. Was on with Jez earlier, had a good show with him. Yeah, can't complain really. Looking forward to the Arsenal match tomorrow night. But I've been looking forward to this for a while now. I love just sitting here talking football with you. There was someone in my chat today saying that one of the best streams they've seen was us just watching the match the other night. You know what I mean? Just because we were chatting in between about football, they thought it was brilliant. You know what I mean? So I love chatting football with someone who knows football. Why would I want to be on a panel arguing with idiots when I could be sitting here talking football with somebody who knows it, and a legendary chat as well? Now, big up for having me on, man.
No, appreciate it, man. Big up to everybody. Big up everybody in the chat. Yes, we are. I will touch upon it really quick after the absolute meltdown I had for about 30 minutes being pissed off with all the Italian media trying to baby Juventus after that red card with Inter. Poetic justice even more that Galatasaray slapped them up this game. Noah Long, even more of a reason why Conte needs to get sacked. He sends him out on loan. He scores 2 goals against Juventus. So
yeah,
you pile on more to get Conte out of here. But yeah, man. So normally, I'm sure you've seen some of the episodes. It's basically pick an 11 of who you would pay to see, and then 3 players. It could be any 3, but normally everybody goes 1 defender, 1 midfielder, and 1 attacker on the bench. And I'm with Shane's ball knowledge, especially because of his love for Serie A as well. I'm very interested to see where this one's going to go. I got to figure out a way that once I have everybody doing their first 11, I'm going to have to put it in a poll or something to see whose 11 everybody likes the most for it, because there's been some great shouts as far as these teams are going. Before we hop in, Shane, really quick, obviously we saw some of the games. We watched the Roma game this weekend. Serie A so far, I think you hit the nail on the head the last time we talked about it. Inter's getting ready to run away with the league, in my opinion. The people can complain. The Juventus fans can get upset about the red card as much as they want. It was poetic justice. They've been doing it for years. But outside of that, Inter was the better team. And they just look like they're getting ready to run away with the league. What's your feeling on the Serie A so far this season?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. You know that I'm a big Serie A fan. I sort of, like a lot of people, I drifted away from it for a while when there was all the sort of, it wasn't up to the standard. But recently, this season especially, the games have been fantastic. I think it's poetic justice, like you said, and it's ironic for a club like Juve to be whinging about decisions and things like that. It's like, give me a break. It's like when Man United fans whinge about too much extra time or too little extra time. It's like, come on, man, you had 2 decades of this. Which was perfectly rounded off when that Wenger quote resurfaced when he was at Arsenal. He said if you had equivalent of a VAR back at the time, that United would finish 15th, and then they did finish 15th. I thought that was amazing. But yeah, look, Serie A has been great. Juve got absolutely slapped tonight. Another red card as well, so they can have a little whinge about that. But Galatasaray looked tasty, man. Galatasaray looked tasty. It's very easy to say that Juve got slapped, but Galatasaray looked tasty, man. That Osimhen is just proper, man. You don't if someone in the Premier League had assigned him, Chelsea or something got him. I think he's going to be sought after during the summer. I think someone big's going to come in for him. But look, Juve got slapped. It's always nice to see. Yep. The match we watched was fantastic. It was end to end. We had a great chat in between it. Yep. Proper way to watch football. Good old chat. But watching the game, 2 screamers from Napoli. Blatant penalty. There was no complaints for the penalty. Yeah. It was definitely a penalty. But a good game. And Serie A has been great this season. Really enjoyed it. AC Milan are doing a bit of an Arsenal. If they were to turn those draws into wins, they'd be chasing down Inter. But you're right. I think Inter are ready to run away with it. And we were discussing Kivu. I think it was a ballsy decision, I suppose now you can say. But he came in and he realised that they were like 3 games away from one of their greatest ever seasons.
Yep.
You know, they win a final, they win the other final, they get over the line in the league. I think now that they're pulling away in the league, they can concentrate a bit more on the Champions League. If they build up a point difference, they can say, right, last season everything was right till the end, and they had to keep playing. And I like what Kibu's done. He's come in, he's gone, look, you were brilliant last season. You were just a couple of games away. So I'm not going to come in and just do an Amarin and say, this is the way we play, complete opposite to the way you've always played. He's come in and he's gone, we'll leave it for now as it is, and I'll just gradually bring in what I want to do, like all managers should, like Mourinho did. People, I was saying this morning, people think that he comes in and rips up the rule book. He doesn't. He comes into a team and he says, okay, Madrid, you play attacking football. I'll continue that. I'll just tighten it up a little bit at the back. He doesn't just, change everything. And I think it's the best way to do it. But I think Inter are getting ready for a bit of a period of domination. If they get finances right and stuff like that, they could be doing it for a while.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely 100% agree. Yeah. AC Milan is showing once again, like Arsenal last year, too many draws kills you more. It's more or less you either go for the win or just take the loss. You'd be able to keep up in the race.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know what? Napoli got lucky. Let's be honest. Napoli got lucky with that draw against Rome. That was Rome's to pull away with that. But you know what? As it currently stands right now, I mean, obviously, this is subject to change now because Atalanta's losing to Dortmund, but obviously there's a whole game to still go, and there is a second leg to go for both. But as of right now, it stands that the Serie A would be the second team along with the Premier League to get the coefficient. So maybe 5 teams from Italy would go into Champions League. It would be nice, but we'll see what ends up happening as far as that. But yeah, man, I'm really interested for this one. So like always, we'll go with the first thing I'll ask you is what formation is your team going to play into for this team that you've put together?
Yeah,
I'm sure you've been racking your brain as much as I have.
Yeah. I have, and I had to leave it then. I had to because I kept going back to it, and I was like, I'm going to mess around with it. So I've gone 4-1-2-3. There's 2 10s in the team and a proper 6 with 2 very attacking wingers and only 1 up front, which killed me, but I had to do it. I had to stack the midfield because that's my favorite type of position for players. So yeah, 4-1-2-3. I'm going with.
Okay. Who is Shane's goalie? As someone who has always prided himself as saying that he was a goalie at one point, I'm really interested to see where you're going to go as far as the goalie you would pick with this.
Well, you know that with a lot of players, for world-class status and stuff, I normally, if they change the game, and I think someone from a long, long time ago that could easily play now, and I think he's, for me, the father of all great goalkeepers. Probably the oldest, would be the oldest player I have in it. He'd be definitely or second. He'd be joint oldest player I have in it. But it's Lev Yashin for me, has to be in goals. I think I sent you the montage of him. I might have sent it a couple of months ago, and if it was tarted up and put in colour, you'd presume it was a modern day keeper. Top corner saves, reflexes. He was coming out with the ball. And for me, the only Ballon d'Or winner that's a goalkeeper still. Changed the game. Anybody who came along in the 60s, 70s, 80s would say he was my inspiration. And just for me, he has to be up there as one of the greatest. I could say a Buffon. I could have said Schmeichel. I could have easily said Rene Higuita because, I love that type of keeper as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it has to be Lev Yashin because I would want to see him play because of the spectacular saves, but the bravery as well. And also, he could play with the ball at his feet. So for me, it's Lev Yashin all the way as a goalkeeper. Absolute legend.
Yeah. No, I hear it, man. I hear it. So my starting 11, I've gone with a 4-2-3-1. And my starting 11 is going to be a little bit more present day. I have done a bunch of throwbacks. I'm going to go with a little bit more present day. And also, since we are the best show on YouTube, in my opinion, Off Topic comes back this weekend, and rolling along with the theme this week is a waste of talents. I've gone with a waste of talent 11 of Serie A, particularly the period when Serie A fell apart. There were still plenty of ballers. It was just the league overall. So many of them just couldn't live up to the hype. So goalie for me, he's still playing. He's still on the bench to this day for Juventus, but injuries robbed him of a great career and is the reason why Wojciech Szczesny became the main goalkeeper for Juventus. I went with Mattia Perin. A lot of people don't remember Mattia Perin, he was a highlight reel goalkeeper for Genoa for a long time, was really responsible for keeping Genoa in the Serie A for a few years with some of the saves that he made. He made his move to Juventus. He was supposed to be the inheritor of the throne from Gigi Buffon, but constant injuries took that away from him and robbed him of a very good career. And yeah, for me, I think Mattia Perin, definitely as far as the Serie A is concerned, he is the biggest waste of talent in the recent years for the Serie A. So with now that you've gone with the back line of four, I'm interested. Who are the fullbacks that you selected for this team?
Yes, well, it surprised me actually when I went back and looked at it that there was only one Italian in my defence. And it's not Maldini or Baresi because the centre-back pairing was taken, unfortunately. But my fullbacks are, I suppose, Cafu played in Italy most of his career, so you have Cafu at right back.
Okay.
And Fachetti's at left back because of, again, people that played, that changed the game. One of the first attacking fullbacks. The whole Catenaccio thing was originally built that the fullbacks attack, and it was an attacking formation originally. It was almost like you're sacrificing the defender because they were like wingers. But then it got like all good tactics, it got bastardized. Then it got used as a really defensive tactic. They just used fullbacks and they didn't let them bomb forward. But Bichetti bombing forward was, I would have loved to have seen it. Cafu was different level. I think he gets almost disrespected because of Roberto Carlos. People go with attacking fullback, they think of Carlos all the time. But Cafu was, for me, better on the ball than Carlos. Carlos had the shot and all that, but Cafu could have played in central midfield and been a baller. Cafu could have played anywhere on the pitch and been that guy's technique. He was big, he was strong, he was fit, he was always available. And Cafu for me is sort of Bichetti was the original attacking fullback. And then he was the one that sort of took it to another level, obviously on the other side, but he took it to another level. And I think he's still trying to be matched to this day. We can talk about any other right backs you want since that are attacking right backs, Dani Alves and all. They still aren't him. They're still not him. So for me, it's Cafu and Facchetti as my, or Facchetti, whatever way you want to say it, as my fullbacks.
Listen, I think the only left back, in my opinion, who's better than Facchetti is Paolo Maldini, if I'm being honest with you, both for historical purpose, and everything else. He's really the one that paved the way for that. Cafu, for me, not only that, I just want to add on that. I think people often disrespect him because they automatically think Brazilian fullback, he can't defend. It's all about going forward. Cafu was one of the best defensive.
Brilliant.
Absolutely defensive. And I'll be honest.
You don't get in the Milan back four if you can't defend, Johnny.
No,
you don't get Milan back four if you can't.
And not only with Milan, I was going to take it even further back. He was one of the pivotal players for Rome when they won the Scudetto.
Yep.
A lot of people forget he was the right wing back in that 3-4-3 that they played.
Oh, he was brilliant.
The way that he would, I think you sent me the montage. I forget if it was Rome versus Inter, if it was Rome versus Juventus, when he was just juggling the ball over three different players down the wing. It just goes right to what you said. He gets forgotten about all the time.
When I remember him though, Gianni, sorry to cut across you. When I remember Cafu though, I remember him at Rome. That's where I remember him. That I know at Milan he won a lot of stuff, but when I think of Cafu, I think of the Roma Cafu. That's the Cafu it instantly comes into my head.
Agreed. I do as well. He was great at both, and he was just, for me, I think he's the best right back of all time, in my personal opinion. Or at least he's up there. For me, for fullbacks in this wasted talent Serie A, the first one, I don't know if a lot of people remember him, but he did go to the Premier League eventually. He was a flop at Newcastle. He was brilliant for Inter for a few years. He came back, couldn't stay healthy, and went down the drain. I went with Davide Santon. He was supposed to be the next fullback wonder kid out of Inter. He was great for Inter as a backup and a role player for the likes of Christian Kivu and Douglas Maicon and Javier Zanetti in the Jose Mourinho period at Inter, and then leading into Rafa Benitez, who was sacked very early on, and Benitez brought him to Newcastle. He could get up and down the pitch, no problem. He was good on the ball, good crosser of the ball, and he was also very good in the air. It was just, once again, injuries robbed him of a very good career. He went back to Inter to try to go along with Roberto Mancini when they were trying to revive Inter from those dark periods after the trouble. And he just never got back on. The injuries had taken his toll on him. And on the right-hand side is a guy who was with Rome, funny enough, started out as a winger and eventually went back to the fullback position because of creativity. And a lot of people remember him for his wonder goal against Barcelona, was Alessandro Florenzi. Florenzi, again, another guy, should have had a much better career than what he did. Injuries took his toll on him. Also, I think part of the problem was the coaches didn't know where to put him, whether he was a proper fullback or a winger. I thought he looked better as the right back. And yeah, just same story like it's going to be for a lot of these guys. Had great potential, had glimpses of possibly being world class, but couldn't stay healthy and couldn't stay consistent when he did have a couple of years where he was healthy, and his career just went down the drain from there. And it was really sad because Florenzi was supposed to be one of the shining new lights for Rome post going from Totti and De Rossi into the next period. So just never worked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fullbacks are down. He said one Italian. I'm interested now. Who's your two center backs for this?
I've gone, obviously, Tony Adams has to go in. He has to go in for me. I think he's actually underrated in world football. And Franz Beckenbauer, because Franz Beckenbauer again changed the game. I want to see a defender. And Tony Adams was great with the ball at his feet. It just took Wenger to come along and let him play. But Beckenbauer was the original. Beckenbauer was he took the Catenaccio thing and he said, yeah, but the sweeper can also join the attack, and the sweeper can play with the ball. He could also handle himself in a back four. He didn't need the two centre backs. He was pure class. He was a winner. Just proper legend. One of these players that when you hear about him, you hear only good things. And Tony Adams is Tony Adams. I mean, I want to pay to see beautiful football, but I also want to pay to see someone who reads the game like him, someone who can make tackles, who can throw his head at the ball, who can score a bucket load of goals as well from corners. And just for me, Tony Adams is everything about my club. I had to put an Arsenal player in, and I was going to put anyone in. It was Tony Adams. But I think with that back four, I think the fullbacks would be able to bomb forward, no problem. I think even Beckenbauer could go wandering, and Tony Adams would be able to hold it together. And when you get my number 6, you'll know then that we'll be able to play a bit of football. But for me, Beckenbauer and Adams have to come in at centre back. There was so many I could have put in. So many that I could have put in that, Baresi, and, I could have moved Maldini inside if I wanted to. And there was so many. Matis Sammer I thought about. I liked him as well, but he was just sort of a Beckenbauer regen, but he wasn't as good. I could have kept going. I could have been putting a rake of players in, but I've gone with Tony Adams and Beckenbauer because they're both leaders. They were both great on the pitch for different reasons. And if I wanted to see a defense of Cafu, Facchetti, Tony Adams, and Beckenbauer, I think you have absolutely everything you need there to be entertained and to go and win as well. So yeah, that'd be my complete back four, and I don't think there's many getting past that.
I agree 100% with you on Tony Adams. For me, Adams should be regarded in the same breath as the Maldinis, the Baresis, the Shireas, the Bergomis, all the great defensive players of all time, and the great, obviously, both of our love for the Serie A. We also show the love to the art of defending, and I think Adams gets the short end of the stick with that. Really quick before we go on to mine, would you? I have said this for a while now, and I always continue to say this because a lot of people try to say, "Oh, some of these players wouldn't survive in the modern game." The talk about the modern game, I think for me, the problem with the modern game is nowadays you have to be more of an athlete than you have to actually be a footballer. And I think that's where a lot of people forget. And for me, I think Tony Adams, and I would also say Alan Hansen for me are the two best defenders that I would say ever came out of the English League One / Premier League. In my personal opinion, they were both footballers, and I just think they get the short end of the stick because Alan Hansen and Tony Adams could have played for the old Inter. They could have played for the old AC Milan. They could have played for the old Juventus and would have fit right in. And I don't think they really would have skipped a beat if Adams was there. I mean, if you took out Costa Curta and replaced Tony Adams in that Oregio Sacchi AC Milan team, I don't think they would have missed a beat at all. In fact, they might have even gotten better with Tony Adams in that back line. I think he would have fit really well with Italy. And Beckenbauer, for me, I think Beckenbauer, Maldini, and Baresi, for me, are the three greatest defenders to ever grace a pitch, in my personal opinion, for that.
I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't argue that.
For you with Adams, would you agree with me when I say that he deserves to be put in that same category as all of the greatest defenders of all time? Because he often, maybe it's a generational thing. The younger fans don't always put him there for whatever reason. But would you agree he's in that same breath as Maldini, Scirea, and all the legendary defenders?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. The only captain in history to win trophies over 3 decades in any of the top leagues. The thing about the modern defenders being athletes, you know, that's not a skill. That can be trained. You can if you have the determination, you can hit the gym more than the other person, and you can do that. That's why they could adjust to this modern game. The modern defenders could not adjust to what it was back then, because they're all those system defenders. It's all a unit. Now, Arsenal's Tony Adams said it when I was there. He said the best defense he ever played in wasn't Bold, Dixon, Winterburn. He said that their best defenders were David O'Leary and Kenny Sampson, but he said the best defensive unit he played with was definitely Dixon, Winterburn, Bold, and then Keown, because it was a unit and they were better. They were better than the sum of the parts. But for me, Tony Adams could have played anywhere. We saw it when Wenger came in and said, "Play football, Tony," and he went, "I've always been able to." Yeah. Well, then do it. And you saw him coming out with the ball, spreading passes, beating players, charging forward, scoring with his feet. Obviously, the famous goal against Everton with his bad foot. All of this stuff that he could do. And I think that he, along with the likes of Maldini, Baresi, Beckenbauer, the greatest defenders, even the Jaap Stams, there's something that they're born with as well. They're just able to read a game. They're able to read a game. And Tony Adams, for me, I said it to someone in the queue at the thing I went to, that he gets highly disrespected in greatest defenders of all time. He gets massive respect at Arsenal. Most people would say he's our best. I think everybody would say he's our best ever defender. It'd be very rare to find someone. Obviously, the newer generation will say, "Oh well, Gabriel's," but you know what I mean. But we're not even dealing with them. But for me, he doesn't get, because a lot of it I go by books I've read, for autobiographies and things like that. And anyone from that era, the Shearers and all, who's the toughest defender you played against? Who was the hardest to beat? Adams. They all just to a man, they say Adams. Michael Owen, Adams. They all just say Adams. So you have to go by that as well. Yeah. But for me, he could have played in any generation, in any team. I don't think there is a team in history that he's not having a shout to get in. And for me, he's highly rated. I have no qualms putting him in an 11 like this.
Yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree. He's Tony Adams, I think, is actually, he might be the most common player picked across all of the 11 so far, both mine and all the guests that I have on. It's just a reoccurring thing. I mean, obviously, we're all Arsenal fans. We all want to show Tony Adams some love, but at the same time, like we say, Tony Adams is one of the greatest defenders of all time, and rightfully deserves to get put in everybody's 11, in my personal opinion. The two center backs that I've gone with for this wasted talent of Serie A. The first one, maybe people will remember him. Those who are the Premier League lovers will remember him as his one-off season at Hull City. But his name was Andrea Ranocchia. Ranocchia was supposed to be one of the next big Italian defenders to come out. And he started his career as a youth academy with Perugia. He played at Arezzo. He played at Genoa. He went to Bari on loan to 2 years with Genoa. He was supposed to break in. Genoa said, "You're not good enough." They loaned him to Bari for 2 years, and then he was picked up with Inter and stayed with Inter for 12. He ended up getting loaned out a few times while at Inter. He never hit the heights he was supposed to. Same thing. Injuries killed him, but he was supposed to be he was supposed to be everything that Bonucci was and better. 6'5", very strong, unbelievable in the air, could read the game very well. But same old story, like a lot of these guys, could not stay fit. Ranocchia was, at the time, paired up with, funny enough, Napoli's current player, Juan Jesus, and was supposed to be the two new big Italian and Brazilian center backs to help lead Inter during their dark period. Like I say, after Jose Mourinho's time, it just never took off. He had some games where he showed flashes of the brilliance, but just never lived up to the hype. And the second one, a lot of people may not know this guy. He played for Napoli, and he came out of the Napoli youth system. His name was Fabiano Santacroce. Fabiano Santacroce was supposed to be the second ever Black Italian to play for the Italian national team. And same thing, him and Ranocchio were hyped up to be the two new major center backs for Italy going forward. He had 2 years at Napoli where he was absolutely unplayable. He was one of the best center backs in the league, and then magically he got injured 2 straight years in a row, and he vanished off the face of the earth. Nobody knew what happened to the guy. We don't know if he started drinking or partying, or if he even turned, like a lot of Neapolitan players went down that path of turning to crime and became a mafia member. He realistically just vanished off the face of the earth. He was mentioned in that the reel that I had sent you, where the guys were talking about the great 1 year one-offs in Serie A. He was one of the defenders that they named in that. But Fabiano Santacroce had 2 unbelievable years for Napoli. And there was talk that he was going to go to Juventus and possibly even replace Giorgio Chiellini, had Chiellini been sold to Real Madrid one of those years. He was that highly rated. But like I said, 2 brilliant years, got an injury in the third, tried to play a 4th year, just couldn't do it, and just vanished off the face of the earth. So I remember it like yesterday. One of the famous games was the Napoli comeback. We were losing 2-0 against Juventus. We ended up coming back and winning 3-2. And Fabiano Santacroce threw the padlock on Del Piero. Del Piero was a non-factor the whole game. There were 2 questionable free kicks and a penalty that Juventus had scored to get. One of the goals was brought back offside. Shocker. But he put in a performance. He put 2 massive performances in. He had one performance against Del Piero where Del Piero couldn't even get a touch of the ball. And the other person he did that to was Wesley Sneijder, still at Inter Milan as well. And Wesley Sneijder couldn't get a touch of the ball. I mean, the guy had the making to be everything you wanted as a good center back, but just completely fell off. So those are my 2. For your number 6, who have you selected for the number 6? Because you have a badass defense. I don't see that many people's scoring against you. I'm interested for who you've gone with for the 6 now.
Yeah, I tossed up a few ideas. I actually had John Tigana in my head as well. You mentioned that you had him, but it was always going to land on Pirlo. It was always going to land on Pirlo. Pirlo is just, he was a dream to watch. Pirlo's the type of player, I've said it before, that I'm gutted I never went to see him live, in that even when it's on screen and the ball is with the winger, my eyes are on Pirlo. I just watch him, the way he moves, the way he looks for the ball, the way he, Kroos has that about him as well. I liked watching Kroos and Carrick and players like that. I love a 6 like that always seems to be in space, and every pass has meaning. Every pass has meaning. He could come forward then. Remember what he did to England. And for me, Pirlo was just unbelievable. I remember my mate's a Chelsea fan, and he adores Pirlo, and always Chelsea came close to getting him, and he was so excited. But Pirlo was just unbelievable. That guy was everything you want in a 6. He was good on the ball. He didn't have to slide tackle, but he still won the ball back an awful lot. People, the Top Gooners, talk about Zubamendi and that sort of, and it's like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like there is no comparison of the two. Pirlo was a dream, and you know what? Like that sort of deep line playmaker wasn't really a thing until him. No. You know what I mean? There was he was an advanced playmaker, obviously, and then there was the 6 in the Makelele form that won the ball back and gave it short. But a deep line playmaker wasn't really a thing until he came along, and he 50-yard passes, 4-yard passes, whatever pass he did was always a dream. And he had that Busquets thing as well, where he didn't have to do a step over. He just shifted his shoulder and the player fell on his arse, because he just an absolute, dream to watch. And, I'm with DJB on this. I'd have him in my top 10s of all time, a lot of the time, depending on my mood, obviously. But I when it comes to a 6, I think there's no one touching him. And when it comes to the greatest players of all time, he should be there. He should have Ballon d'Ors coming out his arse, that guy. He was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable player. But Pirlo, when I did try to think of other players, I think deep down I always knew that Pirlo was going to be the six for me, regardless of who I did pick instead. But it was Pirlo for me, man. I think of him with Beckenbauer coming in beside him in midfield and Adams holding the fort. I just think nobody's getting near your team. Nobody's getting near them.
Not even close. You know what the funny thing is? I always joke. I don't think I've ever seen Pirlo actually sweat. He's the coolest, calmest dude I've ever seen play the game.
Yeah.
Nothing phases him. I actually had the pleasure of seeing him play twice. The season that Napoli first came back up to the Serie A, I was at the home game where Milan came there. He was still with Milan at the time. And then I saw him when he was with Juventus as well, play against Napoli. He for me, I often say if I wanted to build my favorite 11, or for me the best 11 that I would love to see play, I always say that it would have been a dream, I think, for everybody to see Pirlo, Xavi, and Iniesta in the same midfield, just to see the ball movement, and just to see. I mean, it's basically, if you don't score on possession, you lose the ball. Good luck getting it back between those three.
Yeah,
and at that point, Pirlo. For Italians, he often gets forgotten about. I always say Buffon, but Pirlo is, for me, it's either Cannavaro or Pirlo are the next two most important players for that 06 World Cup.
Yeah.
And the pass that he leaves off for Grosso to get the winning goal with Germany.
Amazing.
The no look.
That's what I mean about not having to touch the ball, not having to. Yeah. You're still changing the game. And do you know what it is, Johnny? If you take some of the sort of nearly teams, like the England team, the golden generation, and you put Pirlo in, they get over the line, because then you have Gerrard and Scholes ahead of him, or you have Gerrard and Lampard ahead of Pirlo. As soon as you put him into any team, standard goes up massively, and every player around him improves. Every single player around him improves, and I think that's when you're talking about greats. That's what you do. Rijkaard had that, and Rijkaard was more box to box. He was another one that was in with a heavy shout of getting in my team. But for Pirlo, like, it just. Everything about him, like you said, he didn't sweat. That dummy to just leave the ball, the vision, he just, and just he was better in the pressure moments where another player would crumble. He got even better, and that move as well when he went to Juve, and what a mistake to let him go. What a mistake to let him go when he just went, and it was unbelievable. But what a player. You
can make an argument that because if you go down that rabbit hole after that 2010-2011 AC Milan team that won, and they told him that you were no longer good enough to play here, had he stayed, you could seriously make an argument that if he stayed with Ambrosini and a guy who is going to be coming up for me in the midfield as far as wasted 11, AC Milan for me would have never fell off the way that they did, in my personal opinion. The funny thing is, there were so many talks about what if players on both Milan and Inter. Had Pirlo stayed at AC Milan, I think that AC Milan team never falls the way that they did. And the funniest thing about Pirlo is that he was a number 10. And the even funnier than that was he came out of the youth academy originally by Inter. They were the first
Inter Milan. He was a 10.
And it's just like, and to go back to learn from another great number 6 in Ancelotti, and Ancelotti to be able to teach him how to play the game, and not only how to do that, but to learn how to incorporate a guy like Gattuso to allow Pirlo to go into that midfield and flourish the way he did. For me, I'm agreeing with you. For me, I think he's the best 6 that I ever saw play the game, in my personal opinion. I've gone with 2 defensive midfielders, one more of a 6, but also goes forward. The other one is definitely box to box. The first one is good old rocket shot, Freddy Guarin. For those that don't remember Freddy Guarin, he was a Colombian midfielder that came out of the Portuguese league to Inter, and he was supposed to be the next big thing as far as a ball-winning midfielder, but also had a rocket shot. You could say similar qualities to what people thought of Granit Xhaka, but as far as winning the ball and defensive capabilities, he was better than Xhaka. Dribbling, the problem with that Inter team was they tried making him be the focal point of the offensive buildup, and he just wasn't a good buildup player, and he wasn't a dribbler. He was very simple, did the dirty work. If you gave him a shot outside 25 yards out, he could smash it in, because very similar to the leg power of what we would say, like we saw with Lucas Podolski at certain times with shooting. Guarin was just a guy who, for me, those years before Mancini came back to Inter, all the different managers, whether Mazzari, Stramaccioni, Rocchi, they just couldn't figure out what to do with him at all. And he super wasted talent. And the next guy that I'm going to have with him pairing in that midfield for me, his years at Milan was fantastic, but post Milan, it was just hit or miss, was Kevin Prince Boateng. Another guy who he grew in, he learned from Seedorf, learned from Pirlo, learned from Gattuso, learned from Ambrosini, learned from four guys that really could have helped you build into one of the best midfielders, and at times showed flashes that he was going to be absolutely brilliant. And he was good at AC Milan. He went to Schalke with a Schalke team that on paper should have beat Bayern a few times for the Bundesliga title at that point. And it had it not been for injuries, they probably would have. But Kevin Prince Boateng, big time player when he was with Milan, just only had about 3 to 4 good years of his career and then became very spotty here and there. So those are my two guys for that team. For your next two in front of Pirlo, who do you got who else do you have now in the midfield?
Well, I think we're quite also attacking defense that I do have. Like, obviously I have overlapping fullbacks and I have Beckenbauer coming into midfield and Pirlo, but they can all defend as well. That's why I did it. And so I'm just going to go off on it now with the attacking players, which I think every team should do. If you have a solid back four and a good six, the next five should be allowed create. So behind my striker, I have Maradona and Michel Platini. Two players that, look, it's easy. It's very easy to do this. Man. I could have said, okay, and I could have gone, no, look, I could have gone all deep and tried to hit someone with a player that nobody, like a Tissier, which could have easily been in it. But for me, because of, when for me, it's goalkeepers, number 10s. I've always loved the number 10, and I just think that with Platini and Maradona, Platini, I've obviously the footage I've seen. I remember tiny bits from being a kid. Maradona, the same bit more of him. But for two players that I've probably researched the most throughout my life through clips and things like that, those two will be right up there. We were talking about Platini the other day, and that like Brady was close to getting in, was very, very close to getting in. But for me, it's just the perfect balance having the two of them, because Platini's, he could drop back in beside Pirlo if he had to and spread passes. Maradona could just patrol, do what he does best. And I just think for players that you want to watch, it has to be Platini. They were players that, I mean, this team, if you're going to pay to watch someone, it would be quite frustrating, because you'd want to keep your eyes on everyone. You know what I mean? And that's the problem with it. You know what I mean? So everybody who gets the ball, you'd be going, oh, great, I want to see him. I want to see him. But for two entertainers who are also winners. Which is a rare way. It's rarer than people think. You get entertainers that are happy just to entertain. They could entertain because they were so good. With Messi's an entertainer as well, but he's just, for me, Messi's more devastating than, he's the best player. I think it's him or Maradona for me are the two best players that have ever kicked the football. But Maradona, you wouldn't know what you're getting with him. Messi was devastating, but he wasn't really, flick it over a player or anything like that, where Maradona would be. And I just think with Maradona and Platini and Pirlo in midfield, I mean, it's just going to be a dream to watch. But as it's players that I'd love to see, I've also added obviously a bit of romanticism in players that, are the legends. I could easily do one of players that weren't as highly known, and you could put in your Letiziers and your JJ Okochas and your Makelades and things like that. But for me, Maradona and Platini just is the perfect 2 10s to play behind the striker that I will have up front. But again, it's more the players that I had to leave out that broke my heart. But Maradona and Platini for me, man.
I hear it. For me, those are the two best players of the 1980s. And for me, Maradona, for me, obviously I'm biased because I'm a Napoli fan. He's the greatest of all time. But Platini, for me, when people have this conversation, I think it's actually a lot more difficult than people say, because they didn't get to see him as much. I am lucky that my grandfather had tapes and stuff of Platini. I honestly don't know who's better between Platini and Zinedine Zidane, because they're it's so difficult to look at the two of them. Because
sorry, Johnny, but if you add in Platini's goal scoring, you'd have to lean towards him. Like Zidane had periods at Juve where he went 20 games without scoring. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's where I was going to go with it, was that, and even more so to what you alluded with Liam Brady. Liam Brady, again, I've said this across a couple of streams recently because I've been so pissed off about Keown's take about that, trying to compare Odegaard to Brady. Liam Brady, for me, is definitely top 15, possibly top 10 greatest number 10s I've ever seen. And that's just the limited footage I saw. But the fact that Juventus could only get Platini to be better than Brady, I think not only speaks of Brady, but also speaks to Platini, because the 2 years that Brady was at Juventus, he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. And you could make the argument that at the time he was the best creative player in Italy by a landslide in the early 80s. And then Platini came along, especially after that Euro performance. What is it, 9 or 10 goals in 5 games or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, nine goals in that Euros. It would have been, I think it was 6 games. 6 games.
9. I mean, especially from a number 10 at that point.
Yeah. He set up a few goals as well.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people need to go back and watch Michel Platini. Maradona, I mean, what else is there to say? I think for me, the best way to sum it up is 1986, between dragging Argentina to win the World Cup, and then to do that, then go to Napoli and drag Napoli to win the Scudetto. This was not the Napoli that had Careca or Zola on the team as well. It was really just him and Fernando Di Napoli and a young baby Ciro Ferrara. It wasn't even Ciro Ferrara that would eventually leave to Juventus. I don't think any player has hit the peak of what Maradona was of 1986 going into 87. No. I don't think
those 2 or 3 years he was nobody's ever, even that Messi year, the calendar year of 70 whatever goals, that was unbelievable. But he was surrounded by absolute ballers. You know, he was playing for one of the best club sides that has ever graced football. If you put Maradona in that team, fuck me, man. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know what I mean? Honestly, like, you put him in that team. So for me, you have to bring that into account, that Napoli were the equivalent of a Crystal Palace. You know what I mean? And they're dominating the strongest league there's ever been. You know what I mean? They weren't dominating the Finnish league, or, you know, they were dominating a league that had Platini and all these lads in it. And it was Roy the Rover stuff. And when you look at it, like free kicks in injury time against Milan, and it was proper, you know, we need a hero now, and you'd pick up the ball and beat 4 players and get kicked down. I'm not even exaggerating, and then just spot at home, or it was different level. And for me, that period, and I'm sure Kenny Ken would agree as well, I think he did on a show, that there hasn't been a player it was different level. It really was. I don't think you could even talk it up enough for anyone that hasn't gone back and watched the footage. You have to.
Yeah.
I don't think they can probably go, you're getting a bit, and you go, well, I can't talk it up enough. It really was. I'm playing. Some of the players in this team are not very good at all, and I'm running the show. He was just, you know, and the whole sort of hothead angle. You're paying to see these guys, and you're paying to see what will happen. And I just think with him and Platini, it's just like, come on, man. You know, you're going to see some of the best football you've ever seen, and individual brilliance as well.
The game against him and Maradona, I'm sure you've seen the goal. And it shows how much the politics and bullshit goes in favor for Juventus. The indirect free kick 2-touch goal inside the box, for me, is one of the greatest goals I've ever seen. You know, it's hard enough to shoot the ball over the wall, dip it in the way that we've seen some of it. But the fact that you had to pass it, get the ball back, and then shoot over a wall inside the box and still be able to put it in against, at that point, Juve was still the best team. Milan hadn't even risen up to the level yet. It was still the best team in Italy, and the fact that he pulled that off was absolutely insane. So for me, the number 10 that I've gone in here, he had a great run at Fiorentina, but his career would fall off when he went to the Premier League and went to Manchester City. He was with City before Pep. Pep sent him out on loan to Inter when Roberto Mancini retook over. He showed many sparks of brilliance and has many brilliant goals across his career. But when he went to Inter and stayed, and then eventually went to Monaco and just bounced the teams because he couldn't stay healthy, and everyone was just trying to catch lightning in a bottle with him. I went with Stefan Jovetic. Jovetic at Fiorentina was just an absolute baller. Him and Alberto Gilardino as the top two guys for Fiorentina at the time was absolutely ridiculous. And it was funny enough that when he was sold to Manchester City, there were a lot of Fiorentina fans that were pissed off that they chose to take a gamble on Mario Gomez, who was a great striker in the Bundesliga in his own right, but was absolutely terrible at Fiorentina. And so many missed Jovetic. And he had some brilliance sometimes at Manchester City, but he came back. He had some good goals at Inter, just couldn't stay healthy again. And he was just, at his peak, Jovetic could have been one of the best secondary strikers in the world, but injuries absolutely ruined him. So we got Platini and Maradona. Who else is up here now with this offense?
Well, so it's my wingers now, and then the striker up front. So we have the three in midfield, and my two wingers are Johan Cruyff. Got to get my Dutch influence in there.
Yeah.
And Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho just has to be. Lothar Matthäus was very close, Ryan. Very, very close to making my team. But Johan Cruyff, just everything about him. And Ronaldinho. For Ronaldinho was, when we talk about the Maradonas of this world and sort of a 2 or 3 year period where they were untouchable.
Yeah.
Ronaldinho had a 2 or 3 year period at Barcelona where, he single-handedly made Sky millions because they started showing the Spanish football and people were tuning in just to watch Ronaldinho. And if you watched him in a game, you were sure to see minimum 3 or 4 moments that made you go, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Whether it was there's that moment where for Milan, when he took it on the chest out left and skipped inside and drilled a diagonal ball along the ground that somehow went through the eye of a needle. But you look at Ronaldinho and you just go, that is entertainment of the high. But again, he won as well. He won. And Rijkaard even said, like, I had to stop trying to coach him. What can I teach him? I can't teach him anything. I just have to try and keep him fit. And that's right. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be with a player that's that good. You shouldn't be touching him. Don't you fucking dare try and make him. Leave him as he is. Just keep him fit. Because he what he does has never been seen before. So what are you going to do? And Bobby Robson said it about R9 as well. Like, I used to be on the sideline bollocking him, telling him what runs to make until I went, why am I telling him what runs? He should be telling every other striker in the world what runs to make. He's the best I've ever seen. So for me, with Ronaldinho, proper entertainer. He's everything that football should be when it's played right. And Cruyff was different level. Cruyff was, you could play him up front, you could play him out the wing, you could play him in midfield. Another player that you have to go by, what other people said that played with him. And me, when I like a player that reinvented the game, he reinvented the game. That languid shifting inside, he didn't. People think he was full of tricks. He wasn't full of tricks, really. He had obviously the Cruyff turn and things like that, but he was just a different level as well. And the way he saw the game, the way he changed the game then after retiring as well.
Yep.
With the way he made teams play. And obviously Michels taught him everything he knew and he took it to a new level. But Cruyff, going to Barcelona, being the man there, and you just have to watch any sort of Hollow game. And you know what? It's nothing to do with the way he played, but I always loved that because he was sponsored by Puma. He only had the 2 stripes on his Adidas kit and everybody else had the 3. And it just sort of, in a team that was built around, we have no individuals. He was still an individual. He was still the king. And there he is, obviously having a ciggy there, which I always love that picture. But Ronaldinho and Cruyff, if you're going to watch a match and Pirlo's patrolling in the 6 and you have Maradona and Platini feeding Ronaldinho and Cruyff out the wings, I mean, you're just going to be entertained. But they would be my 2 that go out the wings. 2 born entertainers, but also winners, goals in them, assists, everything you want to see in wingers for me would be Cruyff and Ronaldinho make my team.
I fortunately and unfortunately, got to see him for AC Milan. I don't know if you remember the insane free kick goal that he scored against Napoli in 2008. I was at that game as an away fan with cousins. He absolutely made Napoli didn't know if the ball was round or square trying to stop him that game. He absolutely destroyed us. We did our best to try to stop Milan from winning on home turf, but he absolutely took us to the cleaners, and that free kick was just unbelievable. And he, as I say this all the time with DJB, whether it's your rival or not, you have to appreciate greatness no matter what. And, him with the bangy hair, the headband, hitting that free kick, and then dancing a beautiful samba on Napoli after getting that goal, it was painful. But to be able to see Ronaldinho
when the dust settles, though, Gianni, you're glad you were there for it. Like, you know what I mean? You were glad you were there. When the pain fades, you go, well, I was still there to see Ronaldinho ping in a free kick. Even the Madrid fans would say that about the Barcelona game when he shredded them. Bernabeu. They would go, it was painful, but I was there. What a player.
Yep. He was it was frustrating to watch that game because that Milan team still had all the great guys that had just previously won the Champions League in 2007, but Napoli was able to stop all of them, but we could not stop him. We could not stop him. He was absolutely unbelievable. Okay. Jesus Christ. Nobody's scoring on you. You're getting probably, this team, I'm actually even scared to ask who the striker is now at this point, because your team's going to be beating everybody about 10-0 on this team. This is absolutely ridiculous. Good. If you don't score against Shane on a free kick or a corner kick, set pieces, guys. If you don't get a set piece against Shane's team, you're not going to get the ball back.
Tony's clearing every set piece as well, man.
That's the
problem. And he scored from them as well. He scored. Ruud Gullit was so close, Martin. Ruud Gullit's one of my favorite all-time players. He was so close, so close.
And even if Adams doesn't head it out, you're not scoring on Yashin.
No, he'll come and play that. No problem, man. He'll come through to the players. I don't know. He's fearless. Yeah. Cafu wasn't small either.
No, he wasn't. No, he was. And Giacinto Facchetti. For those, just to go back to him really quickly, this is how great Facchetti is. Facchetti played for Inter, and Maldini based his game off of Facchetti, who at the same time, his father, Cesare Maldini, who was no slouch of a defender either, he modeled after Facchetti. And if you modeled your game after Facchetti and you got what Maldini is, it speaks to who Facchetti was as a player. But Jesus, this is insanity. This team.
That's with Facchetti as well, though, and that Inter team with the attacking fullbacks. I just think it's so romantic and beautiful that the Lisbon Lions, when they beat them 2-1 for the first British team to win against Inter Milan, both Celtic fullbacks scored. You know what I mean? So at a time when attacking fullback was seen as, that's irresponsible. Both teams had fullbacks just bombing forward. And I just think it's amazing, man. There's moments like that in time that change the whole course of football. And people go, do you know what? And I'm waiting for that moment to come along now where, the good football wins something, and it will happen, and it flips back to good football again, and then 20 years we'll go back to shit football again, like we're having now. But you need something like that. You need it to succeed, and with all those, and everybody was watching that final going, you know what, maybe attacking fullbacks are the way forward, and they also started bombing forward. But I just think it's amazing that these players that change the game. And you have to go, without him, there's no him, and without him, there's no, you know what I mean? And that you have to go back for an attacking fullback. You have to go back to that Inter team and Facchetti and go, right, okay, that was when attacking fullbacks became a thing, and football's been the better for it ever since.
Yeah, and it's fun, and that's why I always say I appreciate whenever you call me for the off-topic show, because I love talking about football history. Because if you try to learn football history from some of these, I can't say certain words that I would like to say about some of these guys. The fact that they try to say that Gary Neville and David Beckham overlap changed the game. It's like, brother, you're about 20 years behind at least when you're trying to learn the true history of the sport and everything else. And it's just, it goes far beyond just top gooners, although top gooners do enough damage on their own. It's just listening to other people when they don't know their history. That's again why I say I think Off Topic is the best show there is on YouTube when we get to talk about football history and expound more on the history of the game than just the limited knowledge that a lot of people have. Well, my two wingers are nowhere near on the same level as yours, but they are shouts for the wasted talent of the recent era of Serie A. My right winger, a lot of people forget that he was even in Serie A because he just couldn't break into the team. And he's one of the greatest wasted talents in the history of the sport, I think, is Ricardo Quaresma. He was brought in by Jose Mourinho to the Inter team the year that they won the treble. He was with Inter the previous season as well. He was just on loan for Chelsea, which he didn't do anything at Chelsea either. And I just think, a lot of people talk about how great Cristiano Ronaldo is, and he's a fantastic goal scorer. Don't get me wrong, but the dribbling and everything that you saw Ronaldo,
he's a better player. Quaresma is a better player. Naturally a better player. He was the one talked about when they were coming through. It was him Ronaldo wasn't talked about like him. He was the one that everybody was looking at. He was different level, that guy.
Him on that Porto team was just absolutely next level. The skills, the ability,
outside of the foot.
And you talk about a player that you would pay to see. You talk nowadays about the young kids. When they talk about their word is the mixtape. How many dribbles can you watch a guy do and make somebody look embarrassing? Quaresma made everybody look on his day when he actually felt like it. He'd embarrass you no matter how good you were. He was one of those guys that you would need to see one of the greatest defenders of all time go up against Quaresma to really see if they were going to have a shot at stopping him, because Quaresma, if you were just a regular level defender, he was going to destroy you. You would have nightmares playing this guy. I mean, just the crazy amount of crosses and shots with the outside of his right foot that he would do was just absolutely insane. The goal that he scored against Belgium, where he brought the ball around and shot it all the way around from the outside of his foot, I think for me is one of the best goals I've ever seen. And then on the other side, he was fantastic for Rome. He started playing at a young age in France for Sochaux at 16. He got purchased by PSG after Rome, and then he came back, and a lot of people will more so remember him for his 2 years at AC Milan. But another failed French wonder kid for me was Jeremy Menez. Jeremy Menez was a part of that. As amazing as it was, France making it to the World Cup final in 2006 had an unbelievable team. But on paper, the trajectory of all the kids that they had in 2010 with the likes of Hatim Ben Arfa and Jeremy Menez and all the other French kids that just didn't live up to the potential. Either they didn't take it serious and they thought just their talent would carry them through. Jeremy Menez was absolutely ridiculous. Thank God I didn't go to this game, because one of my favorite defenders that played for Napoli was Koulibaly, and he made Koulibaly look like an elementary school kid, the way that he destroyed us in the game. He went through the whole defense with just two simple dribbles, and it was just so effortless. It's still unbelievable to me that this guy, just did not live up to the hype. He was fantastic with Rome. The Rome team that he was with, another guy who could have got into this, although he had an okay career, was the guy who played on the right side. I'm sure you remember him, was the long-range sniper Mirko Vucinic, who could have easily gotten into this team as well. And Rome,
Ibrahim Ba as well. What about Ibrahim Ba? He could have made it as well. He had everything. Didn't reach the full potential.
It's just unbelievable that Menez, what he did with Totti and Vucinic at Rome, how they didn't win was unbelievable. And then, him with Milan, as I said, had Pirlo not been told that you weren't good enough, and you still had Pirlo, Boateng, and Ambrosini in the midfield with an older Gattuso, but then you had the likes of El Shaarawy, Menez, and another guy who made my bench as well. Is just absolutely mind-blowing how AC Milan figured to screw that one up. So now I'm interested. To round this starting 11 off, I mean, at this point, you could pick me to be your striker, and I could put in 15 goals with this team. You could take my fat ass out of shape and put me up there, and probably I could put about 6 goals a game if I'm getting passes from these guys. Who's the striker you went along with this starting 11, man?
Well, a couple of the chat know me too well, Ryan and AFC always, and it was only ever going to be Van Basten. As an all-round forward, he had absolutely everything. Now, R9, very close. Pele, of course, very close. But for me, it's the Dutch connection that I love. He was my first favorite player that wasn't an Arsenal player, him and Hullet. And I just think that he's another one I think that's underrated. I think he's underrated. Even though he's highly rated, he's underrated. He was quick as lightning, strong, both feet, bicycle kicks, headers, positioning, everything you need. Another player as well that you could have put him out the wing, you could have put him in central midfield. He still would have balled out. His goal scoring record, he loved scoring. He banged in goals in Serie A when not many people could get more than a handful of goals. Yeah. Ballon d'Ors, 3 Ballon d'Ors before 28, and then he had to retire. It's such a shame. It was very mishandled. And all because his brother came to watch a game when he was playing for Ajax, and he wanted to show off, and he went in too hard on a tackle and did his ankle in, and from then on, so he was at Milan with a bad ankle doing what he did. You know what I mean? He was at Milan, and Tony Adams picked him as the toughest player he's come up against at that thing I was at. He gave Adams the run round in Euro 88 when he got a hat-trick against England. Tony Adams said that Van Basten couldn't get near him. He said that he had strength as well. You think, okay, he's this foreign player with all the fancy flicks and all, I'll just crash into him. And he said Van Basten would just give it right back. So for me, especially with all the creativity I have there, and it's not just that, I'm not just trying to fit him into a team and say this team would work well together. I think for me, it was always going to be Van Basten. I tried to go down the R9 route. I tried to go down the George Best route. I tried to go down the Dennis Law, all of these guys, and I just went, no, for me, Van Basten he had absolutely everything. And not just a goal scorer, but just a genius on the ball. So it had to be Van Basten for me. But there was players that made it close enough, but I think deep down I knew it was always going to be Van Basten, and just can't get much better than me for me for a number 9. Absolutely perfect.
Would you listen, I'm in agreement. For me, I think he's the perfect striker ever. I think he had more than Brazilian Ronaldo phenomenal, and that's hard. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to listen to because of how great Brazilian Ronaldo was. But like you said, the 3 Ballon d'Ors before 28, and I've always said this: if his ankle wasn't destroyed and he was able to go longer than 28, I think for me, him and Maradona is the conversation for the 2 greatest players of all time, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree.
If Van Basten could have got another 6 to 7 years and retired at around 35 and just continued on the trajectory that where he was at with AC Milan, I just think that Van Basten would be the one where, yes, we could still say Messi is fantastic, unbelievable player. A lot of people love Cristiano Ronaldo. For me, he's not so much in that conversation. But for me, if Van Basten got the full run that he should have got, I think Messi would be even pushed down to number 3, and it's still a debate between Van Basten and Diego Maradona, in my personal opinion. Jesus. Yeah, Lynch just summed it up right there. Shane's 11.
If you click on the beside down the bottom there, you'll be able to show it on the screen. If you click on there you go.
Unbelievable.
There's no one getting anywhere near that. And the thing is, they're all beautiful to watch as well. And I include Tony Adams in that, man. You know what I mean? If you're looking for someone, Romario was so close as well. AFC always so close, especially because he was such a dream to watch. But if you're coming up against that team, not just what they smash it, you'd get to see unbelievable football as well. That's Cafu, Paquetá, Adams, Beckenbauer coming into midfield, Pirlo spreading passes, Maradona running with the ball, Platini chipping in with goals, but also setting up Van Basten and Ronaldinho and Cruyff. Come on, man. I mean, there's no one getting near that.
That's the thing with this team is that they're Cruyff, Maradona, Platini, and Ronaldinho can all take turns dancing around the entire team. The other guys,
that's what I mean. So they're all beautiful to watch. So I'm not just picking the best 11 that would win. If I was to pick that, I'd change it up. There'd be other players that would come in. You know, you'd have Pele and stuff would have to be coming in if you want to go win everything. But this would win everything, but also just entertainment in every single player and players that I would pay to see. I think each one of them individually, you'd buy a ticket just to. That's what I was trying to do with it because I thought that was the spirit of the show. I thought everybody on this, if they were just on their own in a team, I'd happily pay for a ticket to go just watch them play. And I think that's the team I was trying to do here. I could pick a whole other 11, absolutely no problem. That would, you know what I mean? That of players I'd pay to see. But I just thought with that one there that it just had everything that I look for in players. And yeah, I was happy enough with that, I have to say.
I'll tell you, Lynch said it here. Just Pirlo picking passes over the top to put the ball on all those guys' feet, and that was the first move that all those guys would make is already just a dream enough to watch, let alone what they would do as far as dribbling around everybody and everything else. I mean, that is absolutely insanity. Absolutely insane team. Well,
sorry, RSV says you need balance of that midfield, though. Someone covering the ground. That's why Beckenbauer's there. Beckenbauer will step into midfield beside Pirlo and protect. Pirlo can read the game, and Beckenbauer can step in because we'll have 80% of the ball. So Beckenbauer will step in, and the other three will. Adams can sort of patrol on his own, and fullbacks overlap on one side if they have to, and the other one will stay back. But I think that with Beckenbauer stepping in beside Pirlo, nobody's even going to get near the defense in the first place.
No. And you still got to score on Yashin. Even you still got to get past Tony.
You
still got to get past Tony Adams and try to score on Yashin afterwards. So it's like, it's why I said good luck. I mean, you're basically hoping that Shane has a mercy rule playing against that. Jesus. Well, I've my striker, I think, is pretty easy to pick out. For me, he's arguably the biggest waste of talent, not only in Serie A, but in the history of football. I went with Adriano. I mean, you know, what else is there to say? Had the physicality, had the build, had a lot of speed, great with unbelievable with the ball with both feet. He's underrated on his right foot, but his left foot was just an absolute fucking cannon. And could score any type of goal you want. You want him to chip the goalie. You want to chip defenders. You want him to make the whole defense look stupid. You know, it's an absolute travesty that his career went down the way that it did after his father passed away. Especially because, you know, it was amazing. Adriano, not only with that Inter team, you know, the fact that you had a rotation of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Adriano, Femi Martins, the other wasted talent of Italy that I have coming off the bench for him. But, you know, Adriano, had he taken his career serious, and it didn't, obviously, losing a parent is difficult for anybody to deal with, and everyone's going to handle loss differently than everybody else. And obviously his was much harsher than majority of a lot of other people, especially when you look at what has happened to him now. But Adriano, do you think he could have given Ronaldo Fenomeno a run for his money for being one of the greatest Brazilian strikers ever had he taken his career seriously? Because I think Adriano, had he taken his career seriously, he would have been up there with the likes of Garrincha, Pelé, Romario, and Ronaldo Fenomeno. I think he would be in that conversation had he actually taken his career seriously. Obviously, it is what it is with the loss of his father that drove him to drink and basically party his whole career away. Do you think with the build that he had that he could have been regarded as one of the greatest strikers ever?
Yeah, and I think that's the point that you put in at the end there. The build, he was blessed. Not many people were blessed with that because he was quick as lightning as well as being an absolute animal in size. Like you said, both feet. He could head the ball, which R9 couldn't really. He had the same pace. He had a stronger shot. You look at someone like that and you go, "Fuck me, man!" You know that could have been so different. But yeah, I'm with you. Easily, he could have been one of the, if not the greatest Brazilian forward next to Pelé, obviously. But R9. It's hard to touch what he was. That's that couple of seasons at Inter and the season at Barcelona.
Yep.
But Adriano, I think, had more natural gifts than R9. You know what I mean? I really do. He was a bit more raw, as in he's not going to round the keeper as often. He'll just smash it past him, but he could round the keeper if he had to.
Yep.
For me, yeah, he is up there as possibly the greatest wasted talent that there's ever been, because he was just different level. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a real shame because, you know, he was one of those that was, everybody was looking at him when we were young going, Inter are just going to dominate world football now because of this guy. He's that good. He's just going to do it on his own. And then it kept sort of getting, he'd make a little comeback and then it would drop again. And yeah, it's such a shame. It's such a shame because he had absolutely everything, blessed with everything you need to be it was almost like a cheat code physicality. You know, it really was. It really was. It was like sometimes he looked like, you know, when the older lad sneaks into the younger classes yard and starts playing football with them, and they're just bouncing off him. And this was defenders just getting flicked off him, and he was just smashing shots, and he had absolutely everything. It's such a shame. It's such a shame that he didn't reach even close to his full potential. Probably only reached about 10% of what he could have been. And he could have been anything he wanted to be. He was Van Basten on steroids. Like that's, you know what I mean? He had everything that Van Basten had.
Yeah.
Just didn't have the attitude the same as Van Basten, unfortunately.
Yeah, and just to end on this with Adriano, he had a fantastic season back in Brazil because he left Inter prematurely before he left the year that they were going into where they eventually won the treble. And that was part of the reason why Mourinho went and got Diego Milito and Eto'o added to the team, because Adriano was no longer there. Because he's said in interviews before, he goes, had Adriano stayed and stuck it out, I wouldn't have needed to go get Milito and Eto'o added to that team. And when he came back from Brazil, everybody thought that, okay, it was what it was. His father's passed away. He's been able to move on. He decided to sign with Rome, and Rome was no slouch team. This was the season. This was the season that they were supposed to get over the hump, because now it was going to be De Rossi, Simone Perrotta as the two midfielders, Totti as the secondary striker, with Adriano up top. And it was like Rome's finally going to get over the hump and finally beat this Inter Milan team. And it just, again, the first 2 months he looked okay at Rome, and then the same thing happened. The depression kicked back in and everything else, and it just robbed him of, as you said, Marco. He was Marco Van Basten. You could almost say you could have blended both R9 and Van Basten together and get Adriano.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, it was like a mix of the two. Yeah.
Just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And just a sad story with him. For the bench, which way do you want to go? Do you want to go defender, midfielder?
Defender, Defender, midfield, striker.
For your defender on the bench, who would you? I mean, you're already not scoring. Now it's going to be even more of a bitch, because if somebody gets tired or says they just want to take a break, I'm sure Shane's going to be pulling somebody else where it's like, oh, we haven't really dropped off. We're just going to keep it the standard.
For me, again, it could have been Baresi, Maldini, any of them. But for me, it's the player that Maldini pointed out as one of the best centre-backs he's ever seen. And for me, one of the most underrated centre-backs.
The Irish legend.
Paul McGrath. Paul McGrath's got to come in. What an absolute... Now, you want to talk about wasted talent. Like, that guy was raging alcoholic through his years, depression, mad depression. His book is, it's sad, but it's also uplifting, and it's a mix of both. But as a centre-back, you know, Alex Ferguson said it, if I could have got him straight, you know, it would have been... That guy at Villa got Player of the Year, and he didn't train all season. He just came in and rode a bike because his knees were shot. You know what I mean? And he just, you know, I remember him against Italy in '94. If you watch that game closely, his left arm is drooping because he was ribs and all were in bits. He had so many painkiller injections, and he was jumping up. He back-heeled the ball clear. He pocketed Baggio. Absolutely. Baggio didn't know where to look. He didn't know where, and he came out after him and was like, who the fuck is this? Like, who is this? He couldn't get near him. That is one of the best individual performances that you will ever see from a defender, and it never gets mentioned. It never gets mentioned. You hear about Bobby Moore against Pele and stuff like that. Well, England lost that game. Ireland didn't fucking lose the game to Italy. They won it. You know what I mean? And he pocketed Signori and all these lads, and he was an absolute machine. And anybody who played with him again says, fuck me, like Paul McGrath. You know what I mean? Paul McGrath. And Tony Adams mentioned it when he was talking. He said, Paul McGrath, like, different level. Could play in midfield, could play centre-back. Never had a bad game, regardless of fitness. But for me, even though he's highly, highly regarded, he's not regarded enough. He could have been, if he had beaten his demons, if he came along now with all the help you get with mental health and stuff like that,
He'd be the best
people would talk
defender in the
about him as
world.
one of the best defenders of all time.
He'd be
Without a
the
doubt,
best
they would
defender
be.
in the world by a
He
country
would be
mile right now.
by a country mile. Everybody would be after him. He could, like I said, he could play in central midfield. He played in central midfield for Jack Charlton an awful lot. So he was good on the ball, had a goal in him, and he had that gift that Italian defenders have. He just read the game. He knew wherever the ball was going to go, he was there. And for me, he was so close to getting in the starting 11. And again, pay to see because he was good on the ball. And because if you love defending, you want to see defenders that read the game well. David O'Leary and the like, that just know where the ball's going to go when you go, how the fuck did he do that? So for me, Paul McGrath, it's sad not to put him on the bench, but listen, if Tony Adams needs a rest or Beckenbauer does, I'll just throw McGrath in there. You know what I mean? And it's not a
problem. So even if one of them come out, you're still not scoring with McGrath there. Unbelievable. Yeah, Shane. You say it just like how I say it, man. Awareness and anticipation is more important for a center back than the ability to track, than the ability of running back to try to catch somebody. Yep. If your awareness and you know how to read the game, 90 to 95% of the opportunities for the opponent are just not going to be there if you know how to read the game. DJB brought it up. Brought it up about the saying that Maldini always says, if I have to go in to make a tackle, I've already made a mistake.
I've already failed.
And like you said about McGrath, I just want to add to what you said. Had he not had his demons, McGrath could have very well, again, been in that same conversation with the likes of a Baresi, a Maldini, and all that. His anticipation and awareness was unbelievable. And I'll honestly say this, for me, I think Paul McGrath, because it came out of left field and because of who Baggio was getting hyped up going into that 94 World Cup, I honestly think, I don't know if there is a better one-off defensive performance in a game, especially of that magnitude, because, Italy was, you go back and watch some of the pre-match talk. Italy was supposed to mop the floor with Ireland. They were saying Baggio was going to get a hat trick against Ireland.
Oh, yeah, 4-0. They said 4-0 before.
Yeah, it was 3-4-0. They were supposed to win. Baggio didn't know if the ball was round or square going up against Paul McGrath. It was
and he had an exceptional World Cup as well, by the way. He had an exceptional World Cup, Baggio. That was the game where he was the most nullified. He had more chances against Brazil than he in the final than he did against Ireland.
Yep. No, 100%.
And to have Maldini and Baresi both come out after that game in the Giant Stadium and say that was a defensive performance of the height. Like for to have those two be at the other end of the pitch going, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? That's you're getting complimented by two of the best defenders that have ever graced the game, saying, fuck me. You know what I mean? So that's an aging Paul McGrath as well, full of painkiller injections.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was already over the hump on his prime years.
Oh, he was, yeah.
Oh,
he was indeed,
yeah. So imagine, in his prime, it would have been even worse. Wow. Fuck. Well, everybody, just to say this right now, Shane may not even need to say who his other two bench guys. You're already not beating this fucking team. This team that I think if anything, we'd have to start taking over-under bets on how much Shane is beating a lot of the he would be beating people. We might have to put the over-under on 5 at least, that there's going to be at least 5 goals scored every single game with this team. My defender on this team, again, to go along with, as I've said, for the wasted talent of Serie A, is a guy I don't know if a lot of people know this guy. Again, another Neapolitan player, but a guy by the name of Armando Izzo. Armando Izzo was a youth academy player that came out of Napoli, left early to go up north to be able to get an opportunity at a bigger club. Not as a bigger club as far as Napoli, but to get into a club all ready to start, because once again, Izzo and Santa Croce were both highly ranked youngsters coming out of the youth academy of Napoli. Again, both had everything that you would have asked for a center back at that time. Izzo had awareness. You couldn't beat him in the air. Leonardo Bonucci at one point said that he thought Izzo would actually be better than all three of the the Juventus defenders at the time better than him, Barzagli, and Chiellini. He said that if Izzo could stay on point, that Izzo would become a better center back than all of these guys. Again, being from a certain area in Napoli, he comes from the area. If you guys have ever seen the TV show Gomorrah, he comes from Secundiliano. He comes from the projects of Napoli. Was a rough guy, very, very rough edge player. If I could describe Armando Izzo was a mix of a defender that knew how to get onto the ball, but had the nastiness and the nasty side of Materazzi. He potentially had the ability of Chiellini, but also had the nasty side of Materazzi. Didn't care who you were as a striker, would get in your face. If you wanted to have a fight, Izzo could throw down with anybody at that time. And the sad thing with him was he was banned at a couple of different times throughout his career, at his time as Torino and as well at Monza, because of the fact that he has been a lot of his childhood friends became big time mob guys down in Napoli, and was always linked to possibly game fixing across the time. He's been banned out of Serie A a couple different times in his career. The most notable one was when he was with Genoa. He was banned for 18 months. He eventually went to Torino. He was a part of the Torino team that got Gianpiero Ventura the job at for the Italian national team. It was when it was Alessio Cerci and Immobile's first coming out party when he was with Torino, when Torino had a good team for 2 years. Izzo was the big center back in the back that really did a lot of the dirty work for them. And he was supposed to come to Napoli. Carlo Ancelotti requested him to be the replacement for Koulibaly when Aurelio De Laurentiis was supposed to revamp the Napoli team for Ancelotti when he became the manager for the team. So yeah, Armando Izzo, he's one of the biggest waste of talents just as far as Italian talent. Again, like I said before, him and Santa Croce both came out of the Napoli Youth Academy around the same time, and both were touted to be better than the three that played for Juventus, and they both just fell apart. They just never lived up to the potential for them. For your midfielder, for your bench, I'm
this
even
one was
scared
rough.
to keep asking, man. I'm scared to just keep asking for
This one was rough, and Liam Brady was so close. But because I've seen, you know what? Even now, I'm thinking of leaving him in. But there was Liam Brady, there was Enzo Schifo, there was Makalady, there was Rijkaard, there was just an endless stream of players. But for pure entertainment, and because he was just an absolute genius with the ball, as Georgie Hadji gets in on my bench as an entertainer. That guy was different level, and he was a winner as well. He was a leader. That goal in '94 when he just smashed it with the outside of his foot into the top corner. He broke our hearts in 2000 when Galatasaray beat us, but he was coming near the end. But Georgie Hadji was just such a good player, and again another one that's underrated for me. I think he gets a bit of the short end of the stick a lot of the time. But Georgie Hadji had absolutely, if you're looking for entertainment, he's in there. But again, it could just as easily have been Liam Brady. I think Liam Brady would have been a better all-round player than Georgie Hadji, but I just picked Georgie Hadji because of the entertainment value. I just think I like and Riquelme as well was very, very close. Riquelme, for me, again, he got a bit of a bad rap at Barcelona. They thought he was going to come in and be the sort of the skillful, beating players, and that's not his game. But I think Hadji had the Riquelme vision, but he could also beat a player. You know what I mean? So for me, Georgie Hadji just nips it. But you could ask me tomorrow and it'll be Brady. You could ask me the day after, it'll be Riquelme. But I have to decide. I have to land on someone. So I've landed on Georgie Hadji just because it is the players you'd pay to see. And he was just another player that you wouldn't have been able to take your eyes off. And just everything he did was entertainment and fantastic.
It was magic. It's funny because you brought Hadji back up, and it's just, on a little side note, I remember when I sent it to you before we even put it on the off-topic show where it was just you and me. It was insane to see not only him, but all those other greats in that Serie B team. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous to see the likes of Hadji, Vieri, Inzaghi, Bierhoff, Batistuta. All these guys were a part of that 94 City of B team. And it's like, how the hell is Haji in City of B? Because he's another one that's just, again, that's the beauty of this show, that you're able to give a shout out for players that should be talked about more than a lot of, what we always say, a lot of the newer players. But Haji, I mean, just an app. A lot of people overuse the word world class. Haji was world class by without a shadow of a doubt. Could do anything he wanted, and man, okay, we're upping the over under to 6 now. Now that we've seen just the bench. My midfielder / winger / striker is a guy I think a lot of people, even the younger guys, will remember, had all the capabilities of being an unbelievable player, just partied himself away throughout his entire career, was an absolute horrible purchase for Chelsea. I didn't think he lived up to it. He had flashes at Chelsea. A lot of people remember him mostly for his time at Fiorentina. I went with Adrian Mutu. I thought,
what a player.
Mutu had all the capabilities of being one of the best number 10s of all time. And he could play anywhere else on the pitch as well. He could play a wing position. He could play a striker position. Just, once again, couldn't keep himself out of trouble. The off-field antics and just him not taking anything seriously at the time was just a sad thing to see, because very similar to what we say about Adriano being a cheat code at the time, and should have been a cheat code for his entire career at that point. Adrian Mutu was, I mean, Romanian as well. He might have been the second coming of Haji, to be quite honest with you, for the newer generations. But Mutu, it just skill wise, capability wise, he gives Adriano a run for his money for one of the, if not being one of, could be the biggest waste of talent of the career. I just think Adrian Mutu. I mean, what did you think of Mutu as well? Because a lot of people don't know him. Some people know him and stuff. He was brilliant. Absolutely unbelievable.
He was brilliant. I remember when Chelsea signed, that was during the first Abramovich transfer window. They signed him, and they signed Duff, and they signed Joe Cole, and I remember Mutu, one goal for Chelsea. He took a free kick with his right foot, and he hit the wall and bounced up, and he volleyed it with his left foot in. You know what I mean? But he was another one that his demons got the better of him. But he's also another one that the players that played with him went, this guy is different level. He is different level. But Mutu, again, he still scored a good few goals for Chelsea. You know what I mean? He still he had a good career with them. But you put him clean through, he'll finish. You put him, you play him in, and he's surrounded by defenders, he'll wriggle out, and he had a good shot on him. He was strong. He was quick. Part of what made him what he was, ironically, was that sort of that unhinged side of him, like so many players, like George Best, like Maradona. Unfortunately, it's what drove them into the ground as well. Sometimes the players find the balance. More often than not, they don't, because that unhinged side will overtake it. The unhinged side is a lot more fun. Snorting a line or drinking or sleeping with girls or whatever will take the, it'll overtake the football side of it. But you look at Mutu as an all-round forward. He's another one in the Van Basten mold, that he had everything. He had absolutely everything. Both feet, was half decent in the air, was quick, strong, but very, very wasted talent. And it's a shame. It's a shame, because he could have been anything he wanted to be. Really, could have been anything he wanted to be. But Mutu, I highly agree that he was that he was a wasted talent, without a doubt.
RSV's got a question here for you, asking how good was Brian Robson, and he says that he believes he was better than Scholes, Lampard, and Gerrard.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that if you were to blend Scholes, Lampard, and Gerrard together, you'd get Brian Robson, funnily enough. If you took all the best attributes of all of them. And I'll go by Kenny Ken and the like, who just say that he's another one as well, that you have to look at players that came along younger. They all say, I wanted to be Brian Robson. They all say it. Beckham, I wanted to be Brian Robson. I wanted to be Brian Robson. He was ruthless in the tackle. Could get forward. Very unlucky with injuries, especially the timing of them for major tournaments and stuff like that with England. But he was he was a player that could have easily gone to Barcelona or Milan or any of them and balled out there. He had absolutely everything. He had, like I said, he could tackle, but getting forward, he had a pass, he had a long shot. He was a leader as well. But Brian Robson is another one that's overlooked, heavily overlooked. And if he hadn't have got injured for those major tournaments and done it, which you needed to do back then on the big stage, because football wasn't as accessible as in, it wasn't shown. You couldn't just, like the Premier League's watched everywhere now. You know, you go to Italy, you go to Spain, the Premier League's on every cafe you go to and stuff like that. So you needed to be seen on the big stage. But Brian Robson was a wonderful player, absolutely wonderful player. I only caught the tail end of him now. Well, not even the tail end. I got a good chunk of his career. But again, a lot of it I go by people that are players that played with him or against him. And most, if not all of them, will say one of the best players I've ever seen. He was sort of he had a lot of what Gascoigne had. It's not the beating players, but the eye for a goal. But he also had the tackling end of it. And Gascoigne was another one that would have been close to mine if he had had a longer career. But yeah, no, listen, that Brian Robson was a fantastic player. And a mix of the three players you mentioned. Take all their best attributes and you have Brian Robson.
You know what's funny is Gascoigne hasn't been chosen by anybody onto their team, if I'm not mistaken, unless it was no, because
because I was surprised DJB didn't. I was very surprised DJB didn't.
Yeah,
Gascoigne was a pure entertainer as well. He could have easily made it into my team. I know he wouldn't have weakened it. He wouldn't have weakened it at all.
Do you think he is the greatest English talent of all time? I've heard this many a times. That a lot of people believe he's the greatest English player of all time.
Natural talent, maybe. Natural talent, probably. But I think you have to look at Bobby Charlton as well. Like Bobby Charlton, because of Bobby Charlton's silly comb over and how straight laced and all he was, people just think he was sort of a box to box midfielder. That guy was a 10 of the highest caliber. That guy was pure silk on the ball, spreading passes, long shots again. But I think as a natural talent, you would have to say it'd be Gascoigne. But then, yeah, Hoddle was up there for me. Chris Waddle as well for natural talent. And I think Hoddle might even have been more of a, what you'd call sort of a continental type player. Hoddle had he could do things that Gascoigne couldn't. Yeah, Gascoigne had the dribbling ability, which was unbelievable. And I think if he hadn't crashed and burned the way he did, it's very easy to beat them up. And I'm not saying anything bad on Gascoigne. He was unbelievable. But I'm with RSV there when I think that Hoddle might have been naturally slightly better. As in, you know, he had that sort of vision that you can't teach. And I think if I was to build a team, you know, I'd probably prefer Hoddle just for me. But I do like that type of player a bit more, the cultured number 10. But it's a toss-up between them for me. But Waddle has to get a shout as well. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. Last one. Who's your backup striker to Van Basten?
It was very easy for me just to say R9. But we're going for players that I pay to see. And when it comes to a finisher, like, you know, that can finish with and do it in style, it's Romario for me. I think Romario was unbelievable. I was very close to Stoichkov. Very close to Stoichkov to back him up. But Romario, just because he scored goals that, again, you'd pay to see, you know, flicking it over someone's head, or, you know, he did that turn against Real Madrid when he just shifted the ball and left the defense for dead and flicked it with the outside of the foot. I could have even put Adriano in, if I'm being honest with you, even with the 10% we got to see he could get in the team. But I got on 340 a week, apparently, Sean. 340 a week is what I heard. But anyway, I would put Romario, just because it is a pay to see. I think Ronaldo R9 was a more devastating forward. I think he was a better forward. But I think for entertainment value and as a natural finisher, Romario was better. I think Romario would have, if they both had the exact same length of career, which I know Romario had a longer career, but if you put him, I think he would have got more goals than Ronaldo because he was a natural goal scorer. But Romario, again, a lot of this is sort of romantic. You'll notice that a lot of mine are from sort of the mid-90s when I'm just really falling in love with football, and the Hadjis and these guys and the Romarios and these type of players were the big thing. So for me, Romario is the backup just because of he pips R9 just for the more entertaining in what I would be entertained by. A lot of people would be more entertained by R9 just skinning players, and don't get me wrong, I'm entertained by that as well. But Romario just had that little bit of, how the fuck did he just do that? You know what I mean? He had that moment. Sorry for cursing, but he had that. You just go, what was that? How did he do that? And that for me just pips it. Just pips it for me. Would Romario, man, what a player.
Would you agree? In my personal opinion, I think that Romario is probably the most natural finisher I've ever seen play the game. In my personal opinion, I think he's
there. And
go ahead.
Yeah, no, but born to finish, definitely natural finisher. And someone that's very close to him that doesn't get enough for being a natural finisher is Robbie Fowler. Yeah, he was a natural finisher. That's why just finished any foot, head. Robbie Fowler. You don't remember him at Liverpool, especially. Well, only really at Liverpool that period. I don't remember seeing him miss. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember him having any misses. Robbie Fowler was played into the box. He scored, and then his goal against Villa is one of my favorite Premier League goals when he turned and then just smashed it with the outside of his foot. And he scored goals against Newcastle. Header, he was unbelievable in the air, left foot, right foot, free kicks. He scored free kicks, and that period when he broke into that Liverpool team and he smashed Arsenal with that hat trick and all, couldn't get near him. And it's an absolute crime that England didn't build their team around him. A crime they didn't build a team around him. You can't have a finisher like that and not build your team around him. But as a natural finisher, Fowler was right up there. But Romario, I do think in my time, and possibly of all time, Romario has to be down as the most natural finisher because it came so fucking perfectly to him. If the ball bounced around the box and Romario got it,
it's goal.
You just knew it was a goal. I remember his outside of the foot finish against Holland in '94 as well, when it came with the cross and he just first outside of the foot. What a player, man. What an absolute baller, man.
He was on the first team. He was on the
waste of talent one as well. You could have put Edmundo. I'm just after thinking of that. Waste of talent. You could have put Edmundo in that. He was a hell of a waste of talent, that guy.
Yeah, I wanted to go with more of the recent time for the Serie A because, obviously the Calciopoli scandal didn't help. It was a big blow to the Serie A, but like I've said, I've always stand on, I believe the situation with financial fair play was a bigger problem than the game fixing scandal, although the game fixing scandal did a massive amount of damage. And the Serie A had a massive fall off to where I would argue that not only the Premier League and La Liga, but the Bundesliga, and even for a certain point in time, because it was still competitive before all the money got funneled to PSG, that maybe for 2 to 3 years, even Ligue 1 was better than the Serie A at that standpoint because of the fact that there was just more competition as far as amongst the teams. And it was just Inter and AC Milan for about 3 to, you could argue 3, even up to 5 years. Both of those teams were stacked with players that, if you wanted to play like online or against your buddies with FIFA, they had a bunch of ballers that you would love to play with to see like the tricks.
You're very, very good way of putting it. Yeah.
But like they just couldn't put it together. Like I was talking, I think the doc put it in on one of the other shows when we were talking about it. Like at one point they had, do you remember Honda, the Japanese winger that was playing in Russia? Yep. They had Honda, they had Adel Tarap, they had Jeremy Menez, they had El Sharari. They had another guy who never panned out for Italy, even was Antonio Nocerino in the midfield. Like there were so many good players that visually looking at it on paper, AC Milan should have still been a good team. But because it was that era of there were just so many what ifs, and it wasn't just Milan as well. You had them on Juve, although Juve were just able to cherry pick the best players from each team at this point in time because they were the only ones that had their finances straightened out. And then the same thing with Inter. I mean, Inter at one point, the front line for Inter, I think it was the 2011 when they won the Coppa Italia, they picked Gianpaolo Pazzini off Sampdoria, and their front line was Diego Milito, Cassano, and Pazzini. And they finished 8th. And it's like, how did you still had Cambiaso on the team. You still had Zanetti on the team. You know, you still had Sully Muntari before he made the move across to AC Milan. You still had Walter Samuel. You still had some good defenders on the team, and you finished 8th. It's like, how the hell did you pull that off with that good of a team? It was just absolutely mind-blowing, just the amount of what ifs on all those teams. And it's what really gave rise to Rome and Napoli to be the two teams contending with Juve for a good bit at that time frame too. But for me, for my striker to round it off, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people could guess it. I went with Mario Balotelli. You know, for you to be able to break into that Inter Milan team that went on that 5-year run, for you to break onto the team and for Zlatan Ibrahimovic to say that he had everything and he should have been better than me, especially where Zlatan Ibrahimovic is ranked, I think amongst unanimously as a player, for him to say that Mario Balotelli should have been better than him. And when you see some of the goals that Balotelli was doing at 16 in the Serie A with that Inter team, you really couldn't tell the difference of who was better with the team. If it was better under Ibra, if it was better under Balotelli. And then for him to come in and do what he did for Manchester City, he had a couple seasons at AC Milan where he looked absolutely fantastic. But what really killed his career off for me was that he didn't take the move to Liverpool serious. When he went back to Milan on loan from Liverpool, he wasn't serious. He then went to France. He looked good at Nice, but by then
Nice, he did. The first season, he looked all right. First half of the season, he looked good.
Yeah,
at Nice.
First half of the season at Nice, he looked good. But, you know, again, by that point in Ligue 1, it wasn't the old Ligue 1. It was a much more watered-down league at that point. He was scoring goals against weaker opposition. He went back to Milan, didn't do it. He went to Brescia for a year, had moments of brilliance, but could never put a full season together. And his time in Turkey, I mean, it just went downhill from there. I think Balotelli for me is in that same conversation with Adriano, that he could be argued as one of the greatest wastes of talent of all time. Same thing, had the build, had the speed, dribbling ability was unbelievable, especially at 16. He was making grown men look absolutely stupid with Inter. And for me, he's the perfect player for me to round off the waste of talent 11 of the more recent era of the Serie A. I'm so interested because you and me talk ball all the time off camera. If I had to give you 2 more slots on the spot to add to this team to the bench, who would you run down the list of adding to the bench with this team?
Liam Brady gets on the bench. If I have a spare spot, Liam Brady gets on the bench. And and then I have to put Maldini in. Then I have to put Maldini on the bench. Then if I'm going that way, because of, again, we're going with players that we want to watch and not just the greatest players. And it'd be very easy to put Baresi in, but for me, Maldini, with the way he read the game, you could watch him all day, and it's a joy to watch. I love all football. I love defensive football. I love attacking football. I love romantic stories in football. I love everything about it. So when I think of a defender I'd want to watch, I want to watch the Tony Adams who will throw his face at the ball and and all of that stuff as well. But I also want to watch the art of defending. And I think Maldini comes into, he just perfects it. He's got everything. He came from that era, then into the modern era, and he adjusted his game. But he was always a player that just read the game, and he looked graceful. Came off the pitch spotless. David O'Leary be in with a shout for that sort of defender. But Maldini is the OG for it. And Liam Brady, it killed me to leave him out. So I will throw Liam Brady in there as well, just because he can play out either wing if we need him, and he can play in the 10. And then Maldini can play basically across the back 4. And if you have Paul McGrath, Maldini on the bench, Ken Hadji and Liam Brady and Romario. I mean, they could all of them could have started. All of them could have started. But that's a good idea as well, Ryan. The most underrated.
I have that one, and I have one other question too that we'll get to once with this. The 2 spares that I have for this team, one is Alberto Aquilani. Rafa Benitez, he sacrificed his job at Liverpool for Aquilani's health. Aquilani should have been, if he could have stayed healthy at Liverpool and at his time at Juventus, should have been a top-class midfielder, but same thing, couldn't stay healthy and wasn't serious about his career. And the last one that I'll round off with the waste of talent of Serie A, for me, I think had he taken his career serious, he would be in the same talk as Del Piero and Totti. Of the newer guys, for me, was Antonio Cassano. Cassano on the ball. I say this all the time, him, and I could very much, even though his stats with Napoli are fantastic and he won trophies with us and was huge, Cassano and Lorenzo Insigne, for me, are two guys that could be world-class players for 3 games and then be mediocre or even shit for the next 10. And the problem with Cassano was, with body in the early days of Rome, Cassano was almost unplayable. Right foot, left foot, he had the nasty side to him, could dribble anybody, could, even as little as he was, could dig out diving headers or even jump over you at times to get a header in. Creativity was just unbelievable. Me personally, I think Cassano's best work was his 3 years with Sampdoria. Obviously, he started becoming a mercenary. He jumped to AC Milan to get that Scudetto. He then jumped to Inter when Inter had a very good front three, but just couldn't figure it out. And then went to Parma, jumped around a few to smaller teams as well, went back to Sampdoria as well. But for me, I think Cassano and Aquilani are two guys I think that easily also represent the waste of talents of the Serie A post, Calciopoli and everything else for me. Really quick before we end this, and again, Shane, I appreciate your time, man. This was absolutely fantastic, and this 11 is up there, man. This 11 might be yours, DJ. It's just the beauty of this is across the different me, Aaron, Natster, being younger than you and DJB and Taryn, and being able to choose all these different players has just been able to show different sides. And I just love getting everybody has a different way of interpreting the game, which is the beautiful part about this, of how they say that they enjoy watching the game. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to have you on, man. And this team is absolutely unbelievable. The first question from Ryan was, what's the best player who's the most unwatchable?
Go on, let you go first, Jenny.
Materazzi's antics. Materazzi's antics. Nobody wants to see players get hurt, and Materazzi took that and ran with that to the very edge that you could. And I mean, we all know the story of him injuring Zlatan Ibrahimovic for the rest of the year when he was with Juventus. With what he did there and the countless. I mean, Materazzi, for better or for worse, his antics got us to win a World Cup with pissing off Zidane. But throughout his career, he was a very good defender. Could actually play offense pretty damn well for a defender. I mean, he was a center back that scored 10 goals in a season as well, with not only shooting but also headers as well. But I just think he took the nasty side of the game too far. And there were plenty of times where I've always said, I think Materazzi, had he kept his game a little bit cleaner, he would be in the talks for being a very good, very, very good defender. Not same level as Cannavaro and Nesta or Maldini or Baresi or Scirea, but that next tier of just underneath. But the antics for me made it very bad to where it's brought his name down a lot more and takes away from how good of a defender he actually was. So that for me is there. The only other person that I would put there who was very good but was terrible to watch was Gattuso.
That's who I was going to pick. God damn
it.
It has to be Gattuso, man. It has to be Gattuso. He did the ugly work. But we were talking about him the other day that he wasn't great on the ball and stuff like that. But I do think that if you have a Gattuso in your team and you control him, he could keep better players out because of what he adds to the team. He adds a hell of a lot to his team without really looking like he does. You know what I mean? Like, he's so important with the engine he has. But he wasn't. Thomas Gravison and the like would come into that as well. But
yeah, great.
He was one of those players. Gattuso for me. Gattuso was wasn't pretty to watch, wasn't pretty to look at either. But you know, he's
Especially when
very
he
important
shaved his
to
head.
whatever team he played. Yeah. So whatever team he was in, he was important. I would have gone Gattuso, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people talk about how great N'Golo Kante was. Gattuso was N'Golo Kante before him.
Yep.
Gattuso could play damn near 3 matches in a row and not even be tired. One of the great set of lungs for a defensive midfielder. I mean, if anybody ever gets a chance to watch it, it's a small clip of when Rio Ferdinand had Carlo Ancelotti on one of his shows to talk about Ancelotti's time at coaching, and he specifically talked about the matchup between AC Milan and Manchester United in the Champions League. And, you know, they had Massimo Aldo, who was, I think, 36 or 37 at the time, and he was more so there for offense to help get the ball up top to Kaká and Inzaghi and Shevchenko. And they were worried about the matchup of Ronaldo's pace. Gattuso froze Ronaldo out of the game. I mean, you know, Gattuso's performance against Ronaldo at the San Siro when they beat Manchester United 3-0, I think Paul McGrath against Roberto Baggio for me is the only game, because, again, Gattuso for me, defensive work, fantastic. You pass him the ball, offense, the play's dead because he was terrible with the ball at his feet. I mean, it is what it is with that. But I think for me, Gattuso is one of maybe the next 5 games. If I had to sit down and think about a great player's one single off game, not great player, but for Gattuso, his matchup against Ronaldo in that was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, obviously, like we said earlier, Paul McGrath versus Baggio is the best for me for that.
Yeah, it's up there.
For out of nowhere performance. And Gattuso is up there. It's not that level, but it's very much close to it. But yeah, for me, he's definitely up there with Materazzi. The most underrated league ever. This is. Do you want to take a crack at this one first?
You're doing a rated league. What to be in a league that was great for a period and it doesn't get the credit. It's let me think about that one. That would be no, because there was only 2 teams in that. That's a tough one. Do you know what? I'll just go with, because of the caliber of player that was at the 2 clubs, and for that 3-4 year period was the Scottish League in the mid to late 90s, when Celtic had Van Hooydonk, Di Canio, McStay, and all these, and Lambert and all these guys, and Rangers had Laudrup, Gascoigne, they had the Boar, they had, you know what I mean. The rest of the league was still okay, actually, if you think about it. Hibs had some good players as well. Hearts had some good players, but for me, just because those 2 teams could have come to the Premier League in that period and battled for the league, I'll just say the Scottish League in that period doesn't get enough credit for how good the football was. It was fantastic.
I actually was going to split this into 2 leagues. I would say the period from 2002 to about 2012 would be Ligue 1, because for me, I've said this I've said this on your channel and on my channel. If you ever want to see one of the best dynasties of a football team that played unbelievable football too, Lyon, that 7 years in a row Lyon team is unbelievable. I've said it.
And they lost their best players quite often, Gianni, in the summer. A lot of the time they lost their best players and just replaced them with another one.
Well, it's like we did on Off Topic when we were talking about the best youth academy systems. Even to this day, Lyon's youth academy is absolutely ridiculous. They're always finding players to come through that academy, and that's what added to that team all the time. You know, the Lyon team, but then right after Lyon, you had the Andre Pierre Gignac and Mathieu Valbuena Marseille team that won. You had the emergence of Johan Gourcuff, who was supposed to be the next Zidane. I mean, he can get into a conversation of one of the biggest wasted talents. He led Bordeaux to win it. He led Bordeaux to win a title. Then you had what got him to come to Arsenal. You had Olivier Giroud win the league with Montpellier at the time. You know, there was just a period that not only with Lyon, but a few years afterwards, where you had different teams come in to win Ligue 1. The other one that I would say,
but you know what, Gianni, sorry, before you do the other one, is Liga in the early 90s / late 80s as well was very underrated, when you had the Marseille teams with Jean-Pierre Papin, and you had the Monaco team with George Weah, and you had, you know, Glenn Hoddle and all there. You know what I mean? So the Liga in that sort of era had a lot. That was almost Pip in Spain for the players going next to. It was sort of when Serie A, all the big players went there. Montpellier even had Valderrama and players like that. There was a lot of good players in Liga then as well. That deserves a shout too, I think.
Yeah. The other one that I was going to say, and it's going to be weird for people to hear this, it would still be the Bundesliga from about 2006 to about 2016, that 10 years. Everybody will look at it, oh, Bayern won the league year in and year out post, 2010. But you forget, Jurgen Klopp's back-to-back Borussia Dortmund team was fantastic. The Wolfsburg team that had Edin Dzeko and Mario Mandzukic, and a lot of people forget him as well. The Brazilian Diego Ribas that was also on that team was
the Schalke team was amazing then as well.
The Schalke team that had Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, Raul, Farfan, had a ton of great players. You had the Werder Bremen team that had Claudio Pizarro, who is a fantastic striker. For anybody who wants to look up somebody whose oddball throwout was Pizarro. And then you also had the Cologne team with Lucas Podolski that was fighting well above their weight limit against those teams. The Bundesliga for a good, and the Bayer Leverkusen team. You had Kiesling, you had Sidney Sam, a ton of, the Bundesliga could very well. Yes. The Ballack in the early days too. The Bundesliga at that time period had a ton of good players across all the different teams.
They got to the semifinals of the Champions League, Leverkusen.
Yeah.
Leverkusen got to the final. They got to the final of the Champions League in that period as well. Yeah.
They got to the final.
Except for a fucking Zidane wonder goal. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's what led to that nickname of Neverkusen. Because they could never go over the those teams. But yeah, I would say those two. I would say those, and like Shane said, the league all of the 80s and 90s. I mean, you had Papin, you had Tigana. The Tigana won three league all titles with Marseille.
That Marseille team were fantastic.
You had the Marseille team and the Bordeaux team.
That Marseille team was fantastic. It's a shame what the chairman did with that Marseille team that won the Champions League. You know what I mean? So we're talking about Desailly, and we're talking about Papin. We're talking about obviously Hoddle was at Monaco. Chris Waddle was at Marseille. He was balling out there. That was a massive league. It was that sort of the match fixing that there was no need to do. They had the league won. And their chairman went and fucking bribed the team in the last day of the season that they would have beaten anyway. And of course, then when they went down, Tony Cascarino went. He's still a hero there, man. Tony Cascarino got them promoted. They love him for it. Big old tone, man.
Yeah, man. But everybody, thank you so much for jumping in for the conversation today. Shane, as always, man, always appreciate talking ball with you. Always appreciate you giving me your time when you hop on the channel. It's all just like I always say, man, it's always a pleasure to talk ball with you, man. We always have a good time doing it. And yeah, Shane, do you have anything coming up? I know we got the Off Topic show coming this weekend, which
Saturday.
Can't wait for this one, because I know it's very much along the lines of the team that I had with Waste of Talent, which I know it's going to be a good one. But besides the Off Topic, what else you got going on, my guy?
Yeah, obviously the full Irish tomorrow morning. We'll be getting into the Saka contract. We'll be getting into Arteta's recent excuses for injuries yet again. I'm glad he got questioned on the warm-up injuries, but of course he deflected. It's not his fault. It's nobody's fault. Except definitely not his fault. We'll be getting into that. And then Thursday, obviously then Match Reaction will be on Views' channel this Wednesday after the Wolves game, which we'll be discussing, and then Bruce Banana on Thursday and the usual bits and pieces. But yeah, full Irish tomorrow morning. And listen, thanks for having me on, man. I could talk football with you all day. And it's a great show. And I could easily do another 11 that would even compare with this one. But I really enjoyed it, man. I love talking proper football with someone who knows what to talk about. Big up to the chat as well, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Big up to the chat. Big up to everybody that came by again just for the conversation. I always appreciate everybody giving me your time. Man. And like I said, it's always good to talk ball with people that actually know it, and not people who confuse players from 10 years ago with players now and other stupid takes that I hear all the fucking time. But I got the next person I believe I got scheduled to come in is Rashid. I think I got Rashid before the Off Topic show for his who he would pay to see.
Mahrez will be making his team.
I believe Mahrez will be making his team. I have a special French edition for him that I put together for the team. And then also Football Capo. And then I'm working The one that's going to be the biggest pain in the ass to do this with, I'm working on it. I got to talk to him again to schedule because I know he's at a big schedule recently. I should be getting the encyclopedia Kenny Ken on, which is really going to make this. That's going to be the toughest team to put together. Is going to be going up with Kenny Ken's 11 because Kenny Ken, as Jez and everybody has said, when you ask Google or ChatGPT about football, they call Kenny. They don't. There's nobody else who they call. They go to Kenny. So everybody, appreciate your time, Shane, as always. And yeah, man, we will see you guys again later. And definitely check out the Best Breakfast Show, early morning breakfast show for YouTube is definitely the Full Irish. And please, this Saturday, check out Off Topic. I know I'm biased because I'm on the show with my guy here, but Off Topic is the best show on YouTube when it comes to football. There's no show that comes close to it. And yeah, we're out of here, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
See you later, people.